Hey, I'm Dave from Discs Dyed by Dave, and today I'm going to experiment to find the best settings on a Cricut Maker to cut vinyl so you don't have to. I've been wanting to do more intricate stencils for my discs, but I've been having issues with the vinyl coming up from the backing paper when cutting finer details. So I've decided to try different material settings on my Cricut Maker and also try different brands of vinyl, as well as different finishes like glossy and matte. All right, let's head over to the computer. And before we get to testing, I want to show you that there is a Manage Custom Materials. This is going to list out all the materials that your machine has. I specifically have the Cricut Maker, and as you can see, there are a lot of different presets here. Three main things or three variables that you have for each of these presets is you have the cut pressure, pretty self-explanatory, the multi-cut, how many times it's going to cut, and the blade type or whatever you stick in there. You can see there is a myriad of different settings. You can see the normal vinyl setting, the pressure, it's only going to cut once, and it uses a fine point blade. Once you find the settings that you like, you can add a new material for that if none of these settings work for you, or if you just want to name it something that is more convenient for you. For example, Oracal 651. So you can save that, and here is where you can adjust the settings. So you can adjust the pressure settings. You can choose how many times it's going to cut and the blade type, and you hit save. Now we can get into our testing. So I'm going to add an image that I know that I had issues with it before. So I'm going to add this to the canvas. The issues that I've had was the sun rays on here have a very sharp angle, and sometimes it didn't cut right, and it didn't cut all the way to the tip, so it was a pain in the butt to weed. The other things are these dots here. If they get super small when the cutter cuts it, it lifts it up when it cuts. Same thing with these little bracket things here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this down to a smaller size that I know I've had issues with before. Create this 3-inch diameter graphic. Then I am going to click Make It. Then for these tests, I'm going to put an item on a sheet, so I'm just going to align them where they need to be and click Continue. The material settings that I'm going to use for this test is vinyl, premium vinyl, matte vinyl, stencil vinyl, glitter vinyl, washi sheet, laser copy paper, everyday iron-on, and I'm going to do one of the transfer sheet. I will put up the settings for those on screen so you can see what those are. One tip that I heard to sharpen your blade is to use aluminum foil or tin foil. Now, I don't think that necessarily sharpens it, but it may get off any of the residue vinyl adhesive to make it cut better, and hopefully it doesn't stick. So what I do is I make a ball like this, give or take. I carefully take the blade out of the holster. I push down, and make sure you don't stab yourself. You want to stab the tin foil or aluminum foil about 10 to 20 times to make sure that it's either sharp, which I don't believe, or to get all that residue vinyl off. So that should be good right about there. And stick it back in, and we'll start cutting. And I'm going to do that between every test cut. So now that we're done testing, let's go see what the results look like. All right, let's recap. Cricut Premium Vinyl in gloss black. Vinyl setting, cut all the way through, was easy to weed, little to no lifting. The Premium Vinyl, cut all the way through, weeded okay, little to no lifting. Matte Vinyl, cut all the way through, easy weeding, a little bit of lifting, not horrible. Stencil Vinyl, cut all the way through, easy to weed, little to no lifting or curling. Glitter Vinyl, did not cut all the way through, was having some issues with the points getting stuck, hard to weed. Washi Sheet, didn't cut all the way through, still had the same thing, issues at the points. Laser paper, cut all the way through, easy to weed, some lifting and curling around the edges. Everyday iron-on, same story, maybe slightly better. And the transfer sheet, cut all the way through, really easy weeding, but there was starting to be major lifting. So the settings that I would recommend for this would be the vinyl, premium vinyl, or stencil vinyl. all of them provided pretty good results. Next up is the Oracal 651 in matte black. The vinyl cut all the way through, was easy to weed, but there was pretty significant lifting and curling. Premium vinyl, same thing. Matte vinyl was even worse with the lifting and curling, but it did cut all the way through and weeded well. Stencil vinyl, same thing as the vinyl, premium vinyl. Cut all the way through, easy to weed, but there was slight lifting, some of the smaller details. Glitter vinyl didn't cut all the way through. It got stuck on some of the points in the sun, so that made it difficult to weed, but there was literally no lifting or anything like that. Washi sheet cut almost all the way through. Weeding was okay, you had to be a little bit careful. There's little to no lifting on some of the smaller details. Laser paper cut all the way through, easy to weed, but there was significant lifting and peeling. Everyday iron-on was the same thing, cut all the way through, easy to weed, and significant lifting and peeling. So for the settings for this, I would recommend the washi sheet for the cleanest cut with no lifting and easy to weed. Next up is the Oracal 651 transparent. The vinyl setting cut all the way through, easy to weed. There was maybe ever so slight lifting around the corners. Premium vinyl, the same exact thing. It cut all the way through, easy to weed. Slight lifting in some areas, but nothing missing. Matte vinyl, some of the eye was lifting, but it cut all the way through and easy to weed. The stencil vinyl was the same as the vinyl. Cut all the way through, easy to weed. Some curling around the edges and almost missing an eyepiece. Glitter vinyl did not cut all the way through. Probably the worst to weed, but the cuts look clean and there was absolutely no lifting or peeling of the pieces. The washi sheet had some issues with it not cutting all the way, so it was a pain in the ass to weed. It was possible if you took your time, but not worth it. Laser paper cut all the way through, easy to weed, but had significant pieces missing and curling. Everyday iron-on cut all the way through, easy to weed, but there was a little bit of lifting and curling around the edges. So for this, I would probably recommend the vinyl setting. If you have like super extreme details and you don't mind taking your time, the washi sheet would probably be easier to weed once it's on the disc. The next one is the Oracal 651 Gloss White. Vinyl setting cut all the way through, easy to weed, but there was lifting and parts missing. Premium vinyl cut all the way through, easy to weed. Not as bad as the regular vinyl, but there were some pieces that were shifted. Matte vinyl, extremely bad for lifting and curling and peeling, but easy to weed. Stencil vinyl, roughly about the same as the regular vinyl. Cut all the way through, easy to weed, but some of the pieces were lifting and there was actually a piece missing. Glitter vinyl, cut almost all the way through. There was some issues with the points. If you're careful, you could probably do it, but there was little to no lifting or missing pieces. Washi sheet cut all the way through. I mean, there was little snakes here and there, but I think that was fine. Easy to weed for the most part if you take your time. There was no lifting or shifting or missing pieces. Laser paper cut all the way through, easy to weed, but there was significant lifting and pieces missing and shifting. Everyday iron-on cut all the way through, easy to weed, but the same thing. There was pieces missing, shifting, and curling up. So for this, I would recommend the washi sheet that had the best cuts and easiest to weed. And the last on this list is the StarCraft Permanent Adhesive Gloss White. So the vinyl setting cut all the way through. In most spots, actually, there were some snags, which was kind of surprising. So it was kind of a pain in the butt to weed. Significant pieces shifted, missing, and curling up. Looks like a mess. Holy cows. Same thing with the premium vinyl. The matte vinyl is probably the worst that I have seen it. Almost all the little circles are scattered all over the place, but it was easy to weed because it obviously was cut all the way through. Stencil vinyl cut all the way through, fairly easy to weed, but there was significant pieces missing, shifted, and curling up. Glitter vinyl didn't cut all the way through, was really a pain to weed, but there was little to no lifting or shifting of pieces, but didn't cut all the way through on some of those, so it would be a pain to weed. Washi sheet, little issues with not cutting all the way through, but mostly cut. Weeding would be okay if you took your time, most likely easier on a disc because the backing sheet in this vinyl is like not sticky. It's the least sticky out of all of them that I've tried, but there is little to no pieces missing, shifting, or things like that, so nice clean cut on the fine details. Laser paper, same dealio, cut all the way through for the most part. Everyday iron-on, same thing. So out of all these, I would recommend the washi sheet. So what did we learn from this experiment? 1. Not all vinyl is created equal. The brands and finishes do make a difference. 2. There is no one size fits all for cut settings. One setting that works well on one type of vinyl may not work on another. I would recommend using this video as a baseline and doing your own experiment. What will I be using? My preference is the Cricut Premium Permanent Vinyl in gloss black or white. It's the one that I've been having the most success with. The downside is, depending on where you source it, it can be the most expensive option. My second choice would be the Oracal 651 in gloss white. It seems to be the popular choice. It can be found at an affordable price as well. I'd love to hear what you found works best for you in the comments below, and let me know what other disc dyeing videos you'd like to see in the future. If you found this content helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing so you never miss the latest and greatest disc dyeing videos.